Hey, all my sellers in the Sellers Academy, welcome to the third step of the selling process. This is the best one. You've made it. You've made it to a point through discovery, through market, where a buyer, a potential buyer that hopefully is a great fit, is going to make an offer. And so these three pieces, right, under the close phase, this is the close phase, is really that first one is making an offer. You're gonna receive an offer from a potential buyer, right? These are attorneys, so they like to negotiate, at different points or anything else. But the key element is to know, what does that look like? Typically, it's a letter of intent, right? A letter of intent is a non-binding, usually, offer, which puts material terms into play. Purchase price, how those the payment of the purchase price is going to happen, what type of transition compensation, right? Different details, what's the structure of the deal, different details should be in that letter of intent. Again, the goal is to agree on the material terms so that you can move into next step of this phase, which is due diligence, and then go into close. But overall, you have to kind of know what those are. Key components on this is to understand purchase terms, right? How somebody's going to pay for it. One of it is, of course, they can give you cash at closing. Everybody loves cash at closing, right? Because it's a guarantee, everything else. But to the buyers, especially if you built a practice where you are the source of the business, right? You're the brand versus the firm's the brand or otherwise. To a lot of buyers, there is risk or perceived risk or real risk in that brand that you've built won't attach to them. We can have a well-documented transition plan and everything else, but because of that risk, be ready for alternative terms of payment, which is essentially could be an earnout structure, which is really a performance type based. Hey, once we close, seller, you get to slow down and exit, but we'll keep paying you based on the revenues that the firm continues to generate from your book of business, from your referral sources, from your website, from your phone number, right? All sources, we'll tally those and pay you a percentage over time, right? So you're done, you can be done working and everything else, but still earning your payment, but it will come in the form of a percentage of potential revenues. That's a performance payment and earnout. You may also have a seller note, right? Some kind of financing or otherwise that comes into play as part of that. And some seller notes can be variable as well. So being open to payment terms is a key thing. Get to the value, find the right fit for you, the right buyer, but be open to terms. There's lots of room to make deals work in those terms. So as much as everybody walks in and wants cash at closing, if you find the right buyer, that may not be as much of a need, right? So being open to that. And again, we'll test everything if you're working with us, but make sure it does get tested and is cash flow. An offer has to work for you and it has to work for the buyer, right? You want it to be successful just as much as the buyer does. So overall, making sure those terms work based on cash flows of the deal, everything else is a core component. Once you accept that offer, you guys are moving forward under a letter of intent, you move into due diligence. Just like in buying a house, right, where you have inspections, everything else, this is also a vulnerable moment because the buyer is going to ask for a bunch of things. And due diligence can really be broken up into a few steps, a few areas. One is lender. If there is a lender involved loaning the money to the buyer or anything else, they ask for a bunch of financials, they ask for other information. The next piece is really going through operations and management that the buyer may want to look at, right? They want to know who your vendors are for your software. They want to know what the contracts are that they would potentially be taking on, from you. They want to know what your employee pay is and benefits and everything else. They want to know the question on why was this expense so high, in this year. All of those are proper and due diligence items, and it's a little vulnerable. You feel like you're opening up all your closets and everything else, to the family that's visiting, but it's all reasonable and it's all needed, right? Once you get past that financial operational, you get into the legal agreements. Yes, lawyers that are retained by you and the buyer to help prepare the legal agreements, purchase agreement, employment of counsel, whatever agreements are going to be involved, lease, sale of a real estate, but overall to help you through that process, right? Don't be your own lawyer. We've got great trusted partners as well to help you along, but overall it's part of that core. And then the last piece of due diligence is really transition plan. What are you as the seller going to do after closing? When this happens, what's the slowdown plan, if that's the plan? What is the handoff plan with referral sources, with clients, with management? What's the announcement to the world, right? We're gonna announce that we're merging together. We're so excited, right? Nothing's about stopping. It's all about continuation. But what is that plan? You wanna know that before closing just to feel comfortable, right? To know that it potentially could work, everything else. And the buyer needs to know that so that once you get into closing, everything's busy after closing. But you're working on that plan. It's been calendared, it's been documented, everything else from that. So that's the last part of due diligence, but the key part not to forget, because all the financials, the legal, everything else gets there, but make sure you focus on that transition plan. Once you're out of due diligence, it's gravy. You're at closing. So from that standpoint, as the buyer is taking care of everything they need to, you actually have a formal closing, the transaction is complete. Maybe that's just a joinder that you've joined a firm as of counsel, but it really means the announcement's going out and everything else from that side. And you can kind of carry that forward. Really, closing is just something to remember is you're not done. Everything we do and everything we would recommend in this world is transition-based sales. You may be relieved of a lot of different things that you don't want to do anymore, but you're going to continue to help transition clients, referral sources, right? Be a goodwill ambassador, as I call it. So the thing is it's really closing and after. It's that transition plan implementation, right? And if you remember that you're committed to that you have those different things, and you and buyer are communicating after closing on those, it'll work well. And I think overall, you'll be very happy once you get to that point. You found a great buyer, you've monetized the value for your practice, and you've gotten to this stretch where really you are meeting your goals that you set so early before. So welcome and congrats on reaching the close phase. Hopefully we can get you there, or hopefully you can get there on your own, but we're happy to be a resource. And again, welcome to the Sellers Academy.